All right, let's take a look at my preview and predictions for week 11 here on NFL matchups. First off, we got a Thursday night tilt between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a huge game for the NFC East and also the NFC. Right now, the Eagles, I believe, are number one in NFC East, and they're number two behind the Lions in the NFC overall. The Eagles are coming off of a drubbing over the Dallas Cowboys, and the Commanders a narrow loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. It's kind of exciting matchup. Like finally, Thursday night matchups haven't been that great. I mean, last week we got a great one, and I think this one will be a good one too. Commanders again. I think they've shown that they can hang in these games, right? And this is a big test for them, right? They failed last week against Pittsburgh, another playoff contending team. You got another shot at it. This time it's on the road. Can the young quarterback in Jaden Daniels go on the road and get the win over Philadelphia? I don't think he can. I think the Eagles are just going to be a little bit too much, especially with Saquon Barkley running the football. And I still think that's an area of concern for the Washington Commanders. So I'm going to go with the Eagles to win this game and improve their standing in the NFC East and remain right there, number two, I believe, in the NFC conference overall. All right, now we got the Jacksonville Jaguars taking on the Detroit Lions. Lions coming off of a thrilling come-from-behind win, a double-digit win on the road, Sunday night, prime time. Jake Bates with the two clutch kicks to help tie the game and then win the game ultimately. And then Jacksonville, a really good performance, solid performance, a game in which I thought they should have won. I really thought they should have won that game. They fell short. Mac Jones got the start. Trevor Lawrence was out. I'm not sure of what the timeline is for Trevor Lawrence, if he's going to give it a go. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section if he is. But the Lions, to me, I thought they were going to lose that game Sunday night. I did not expect them to win that game. But one thing, it showed how resolved they are. This is a team that was down double digits. Quarterback threw 5 interceptions in a game against a formidable opponent in Houston on the road. Things are not going well for you, but you still managed to win that football game. That just shows a lot of the toughness and mental stamina that this team has, and I feel like they have arrived. Like I just wouldn't never give them full credit until they actually won something. But after that game, I walked away thinking the Lions are for real, man. Like, of course they can be beaten. I mean, any team can be beaten on any given Sunday, but the likelihood of them reaching the Super Bowl, I would say, man, it's highly likely, right? So, but to close out this one, I would say the Lions are going to win this game at home. Okay. All right, let's hop on over to the Chicago Bears at home taking on the Green Bay Packers. Listen, they just fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. He's out, which someone had to go. The offensive output has not been what they expected it to be. They had some glimpses earlier, right? I know the game in London, I kind of maybe it might have been a little bit of fool's goal, right? But they haven't scored a touchdown, right? And Caleb Williams is getting worse and worse each and every week. He's 0-2 against other rookie quarterbacks. He's lost to Jaden Daniels and he's lost to Drake May head to head. And then you got Green Bay coming in, right? Now, I will say this. Anytime you get a big change like that, sometimes it could be a blessing and a curse, right? Obviously, in the case of last week, the Saints fired their head coach and the interim coach kind of brought some juice to the building, but I just don't think that it's going to be enough. I think the Packers are still better than the Bears overall. Now, Jordan Love hasn't really been lighting the world on fire himself. And playing solid, right? But still turning the ball over, not making the big plays when he needs to make them. But I still think that they're the better team overall. I like the Packers in this matchup. You got the Las Vegas Raiders now taking on the Miami Dolphins, heading to Miami, actually. Dolphins coming off of a really good Monday night win over the Rams. The Raiders coming off of a bye week. Listen, it's the same problem for the Raiders. No quarterback. And I don't think your coach is that good, to be honest with you. Now, they've let go their offensive coordinator, Luke Getsky, I think, or Gotsky, whatever his name is. He's gone. I don't think it's going to change. The personnel is still the same. You don't really have a running game. You don't have a quarterback. You don't really have a number one threat on the outside at wide receiver. So yeah, I just don't see it. Your best player is probably on defense and Max Crosby. And who knows how long he's going to stick around, after this year. I know he says he wants to be there, but come on. Guys change their mind. And what do you expect these guys to say? No, I want to leave. No, he's going to say, yeah, I want to be here for life, right? But we all know how that goes. And you got Miami Tua. He didn't shock the world with his performance against the Rams. It was a good performance. I know they're getting guys back in the fold, such as Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, who was questionable going into that game. Jonnu Smith had a pretty good game. So but I think the biggest trend for me that I've seen with them is that they're running the ball more effectively, because they're trying to make sure that they're keeping Tua upright. And that defense, man, they're getting after it, man. That defensive line, that front seven, Calais Campbell, who would have thought, man? Like, I don't know how old he is. He's like 55 years old, but he's still getting after it. Still providing some value for this team. I like the Dolphins. I mean, long story short, I like the Dolphins in this particular game. They should win this one easily against the Raiders. All right, let's jump back over now. Let's look at the Rams and the New England Patriots. This is a very interesting one. I think this is going to be a closer game. Honestly, I don't know what the spread on it is, but I will say this: the Rams' offense looked disappointing to me. There were some moments there in that game where I felt like they need to attack the field more, down the field, I would say. I think they got Cooper Kupp going later in that game when they probably should get him going early. Like, I don't watch a lot of Rams games, but what I can remember watching their games a lot is that they're really successful when Cooper Kupp is going. I get it. Puka Nacua is the guy, but I feel like volume for volume, Cooper Kupp has to be the guy Matthew Stafford has to get the ball to off the rip. And then you get other guys going like Puka, but overall, you look at New England coming off a really good win on the road. This time they're at home. But Drake May has shown a lot of really good signs, man, that he can play in the National Football League. And for whatever it's worth, Gerard Mayo, I mean, listen, they're not going to have a winning record. But there have been some games where you're like, okay, all right, New England, you guys are really in there fighting. I think they come up short in this game against the Rams, but I really feel like it's going to be a closer game, to the point where it's like they may be up, but the Rams just maybe have one late game winning drive to win the game. But I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. All right, we got Cleveland Browns taking on the Saints. Jameis Winston taking on his former team, the New Orleans Saints. Listen, I don't know what got into the Saints last week, but that performance against Atlanta at home was remarkable. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I mean, like, this guy really stepped up. 3 catches for 109 yards, I believe 2 touchdowns. And that defense was lights out against Atlanta for the most part. For the majority of that game, they really kept them in check. They won that game decisively. Now, it was close, but I think if you watch that game in totality, the Saints kind of controlled that game. Now, there were some portions of it, I would say, in the second half where Falcons kind of figured some things out. But overall, Derek Carr and the connection to Scantling really outlasted the Falcons in that particular matchup. Then you got Cleveland. Jameis Winston, other than that his first start against the Baltimore Ravens hadn't looked great. I mean, he's playing like Jameis Winston, the Jameis Winston we all kind of know. Kind of fooled a couple of us here. But I'm not going to pick against the Saints. I kind of like the Saints because they're at home. I think that the energy from that arena is going to help carry them. I've been wrong in the past about certain teams and the energy of their fans, but for some reason, I feel inclined to just go with the Saints in this particular game. So therefore, I will go with the Saints. All right, we got a big AFC North matchup between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a battle of all battles, right? Probably one of the games of the week in my estimation, outside of the Washington and Philly game, but definitely the game of the day. Maybe the Chiefs and Bills might have something to say about that, but definitely a really, really good game. Lamar Jackson on the road taking on a vaunted Pittsburgh defense with TJ Watt. Listen, Steelers coming off, both teams coming off really good wins, games in which they were trailing and they won in the end. Steelers have had the Ravens number in the past 7 or 8 games. I believe they've won 7 out of the last 8 games, or 6 out of 7, or something crazy like that. So the Steelers can beat the Ravens. Like, they know each other very well, especially Mike Tomlin. He does know this team well. I think they're going to get it going. I really think, though, the Steelers have an opportunity here to attack that secondary of Baltimore. That's a weakness. That's definitely a big weakness. I'm going to go with the Steelers here. I know Lamar and Derrick Henry have been playing outstanding football, but they don't play defense. And I think the Steelers will be able to maybe get a couple stops here or there. I think their defense is better than the Ravens. And I think Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson, might prove to be the difference in the end. So I'm going to go with the Steelers in a close one. a close one, but I like them to win that game. All right, Minnesota taking on the Tennessee Titans. Like I talked about before, Sam Darnold, there's some cause for concern with him. Too many turnovers in the last couple games that he's had. Like, he's not playing bad overall, but the turnovers are so egregious where you're like, what's happening here? Is he forcing the ball too much? Is he trying to get the ball to Justin Jefferson as much? Which I get it, right? I mean, the guy is an unbelievable talent, but sometimes you just got to know when to hold him and when to fold him, right? And he's not doing that. He's kind of reverting back to his gunslinging days back at USC, which we don't want to see. And you got Tennessee Titans. I mean, Will Levis and Calvin Ridley are kind of really starting to step it up a little bit. Now, Will Levis came back last week against the Rams. Now they lost, against the Chargers. Lost that game, but he still threw a couple touchdowns or a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. They're at home, but I think the Minnesota Vikings defense will help bail out Sam Darnold, because I still expect Sam Darnold to turn the ball over, which I'm not hoping, but I think it's a possibility. But I like Minnesota in this matchup. I got Indianapolis Colts and the New York Jets. These are both teams that are like both heading in the wrong direction. I think the Colts may have to go back to Anthony Richardson. God help us all. Joe Flacco has not really been much better since taking the starting role. In the last 2 weeks, this offense looks like shit. I'll be honest with you. Same thing with the Jets. Like, their defense, honestly, man, is the big letdown with them. Like, Aaron Rodgers, yes, he does not look the same, which we expect that, right? He's 40 years old, coming off an Achilles. How else would you expect him to play, right? He's living off of his name. But that defense, since they fired Robert Saleh, they have gone in the shitter. Like, this was once a formidable, proud defense. Now, under Jeff Ulbrich as the head coach, they suck. They literally suck. Kyler Murray did whatever he wanted to do this past Sunday, right? And he just obliterated them. So I would say the Jets should win this game at home, but if Anthony Richardson's out there, I don't know, man. This one to me is a toss-up. I'm gonna make a pick here. Up until this moment, I'm still deliberating on who will win this game. For the most part, I know all these games before I come on here and record this, but for this one, I'm still up in the air. So with that said, I'm still gonna probably go with the Jets in the end. They're at home. I still think they're the better team overall. They have better pieces, but don't expect the Colts to just lie down. But I think it'll be a close one. The Jets maybe win in the end, maybe on a field goal, but I'm going to take the Jets. I've got Atlanta Falcons taking on the Denver Broncos. Both teams coming off losses, but I think the Broncos just came off a really bad loss. Like, they should have won that game against the Chiefs. Like, how that field goal was blocked, to me, it's crazy, man. Like, you guys, we had them dead to rights, but the Chiefs do what Chiefs do, and they get the win out. Bo Nix is playing a lot better. Rookie Audric Estime, whatever his name is, he's starting to see a lot more touches this past week over Javonte Williams. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that's something you might want to look at. Courtland Sutton, still looking pretty good there. Got a touchdown, I believe, over 100 yards receiving. Atlanta Falcons, I don't know, man. Like, every time I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, they make me look stupid. So I'm not picking them to win this game, just off the principle that although they probably should win this game, Denver's defense is going to be good. And I think Bo Nix will do just enough to win this game at home. So I'm taking Denver Broncos here. We got a big NFC West matchup here between Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers got Christian McCaffrey back. He looked really good. And his performance coming off the IR. Seattle, I don't know, man. It's they're going to throw the ball, right? They typically don't match up well with San Francisco, especially on the road. I think San Francisco they've always been historically, at least under Kyle Shanahan, a better second half of the year type of team. And I think this is when they start to find their stride now. I don't think Seahawks have a chance in this particular game. So I'm going to go with the 49ers. All right, we got a big one here with huge AFC implications. Kansas City Chiefs on the road to Buffalo. Last time they played, Kansas City ended their playoff dreams right there. I believe in the wild card or divisional round. I forgot which one it was, but they ended their run there. I believe it was a divisional round. But, listen, Buffalo Bills, we know the game plan with them. Get the ball through and to Josh Allen. Now, Amari Cooper has been added to the roster. Don't know the status of Keon Coleman. I know he was out last week. I believe it was a wrist injury. listen, I know the Chiefs are going to lose at some point. Like it's going to happen. It's bound to happen. But in a big primetime matchup like this, I still cannot go against them. So I'm not. I'm going to go. My head is telling me don't do it because they're due for a loss, especially the way they've been playing. But I feel like they own the Bills mentally, and I think there's something to say about the psychological warfare that they're playing with the Bills. So I'm not going to go against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to pick the Kansas City Chiefs in a close one. This might be the best game of the week, but I'm going to go with the Chiefs in this one. And almost rounding out the weekend, we got the Sunday Night Football, Bengals and Chargers. I believe this game was flexed, if I'm not mistaken. Not bad, right? I know the Bengals are not in playoff contention right now, and every win for them matters. Now, they need to win this one. Chargers coming off a really good win. They're about 6-3. They're trying to stay paced right there with the Chiefs. You know, obviously the Chiefs are undefeated, but they're trying to be one of those teams like, hey man, you guys are talking about Baltimore, you're talking about the Chiefs, you're talking about the Bills, but what about us? What about the Chargers? If they get this win, they're 7-3 under Jim Harbaugh first year, right? So the Bengals to me offensively are just a unit that you are afraid of, right? This is just defensively they can't make the plays that they needed to make. And in that game against Baltimore, they held them early. They, for 3 quarters, honestly, if you watch that game, go back and watch the tape. They held them. It's just towards the end, they couldn't get stops. I think it's a better matchup for them this time around, but I really like what the Chargers are doing. They're putting the ball back in the hands of Justin Herbert to push the ball down the field, which isn't a bad thing. And they have really good running backs too, between Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Really good, solid line. Defense is a little bit more, more relevant than, obviously at the start of the season. I really like them. I'm going to take the Chargers in a close one at home on Sunday Night Football, which is a good matchup though. And probably the worst game of the week, Monday Night Football. If this could have been flexed, they probably should have, but I get it. Houston Texans on the road. Well, they're staying within the state of Texas, but heading up the road to take on the Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush, I believe, is still the starting quarterback now. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We all know the exploits of the Cowboys. There's no way Texans can't beat this team. No way. And if the Texans don't beat the Cowboys, then you know what? I'm done with the Texans. They don't deserve to be in the playoff hunt because this is a game you need to win flat out. I'm not going to throw stats. I'm not going to throw any type of input. This is one of those games. The Cowboys suck. You guys are better. Go out and win the football game. Period. Okay. All right. So there you have it. Those are my preview and predictions for each and every game for week 11 in the National Football League. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section.